All right, our guest speaker today is Jeff Hendershot. And in 2009, Jeff graduated cum laude from Pacific with a degree in sports management. He was a 4-year letter winner on the men's volleyball team from 2006 to 2009. He coached as an assistant for the men's team in its last or final season in 2014 before the program was discontinued. Well, most recently, he has spent 6 seasons as the head women's volleyball coach at University of Laverne in Southern California. This past season, he led the Leopards to one of the best years in program history, finishing 30-3, and he captured a regional, or the team captured a regional championship. Jeff is a native of Southern California. He played at Claremont High School, where he was a 3-year letter winner. And today, he is the women's volleyball coach at University of the Pacific. So please welcome Jeff Hendershot.
That was half my presentation.
And
I did the other.
I just can't do worse than you.
You would fit right in with us. Yeah, you would. Come more often.
All right. So first of all, this is way more fun and exciting than I thought it was going to be. So I appreciate you all having me. So like Dan said, I grew up in Southern California and started playing volleyball when I was in high school because I wasn't good enough at football or baseball. And so my spring semester, my freshman year in high school, didn't want to do football anymore. I had played baseball for like 12 years and I was just burnt out. And so I was like, Dad, I'm done. I want to do something else. And I was like, I think I'm gonna play music or something. He's like, no, you're not. You're gonna play another sport. Go find something.
Oh.
And so my friends were playing volleyball, and I tried out for the freshman team. I made it, and just fell in love. And I think from the day I tried out for the freshman volleyball team until I graduated from Pacific in 2009, I probably played volleyball every day of my life during that time. So really, really cool. So then I was able to find my way up here to Pacific. Like Diane said, I graduated in 2009 from Hawaii with a sports management degree. That's me and my little sister, my then girlfriend, wife, and my parents on my senior night. And then on the right there, that's me playing against BYU my junior year, which is a really cool opportunity. Getting to play for 5,000 people at the field house at BYU is a really cool thing. So what I want to share with all of you today is just a little bit about me, kind of how I got to this point, what my plan and my vision, and kind of how I plan to do things with the women's program here, and then kind of also share with you kind of the landscape of college athletics. There's some things that we definitely got to figure out in the NCAA with kind of the new environment of paying athletes and just kind of what's expected of college athletics, and kind of share with you, how that's going to impact what we do here at Pacific. What's fun for me is Pacific had such an impact on the direction of my life. So my senior year, probably around this time, we got a couple weeks left of the season, my assistant coach calls me into his office. He says, hey Jeff, what are you doing with your life after volleyball? And I was like, Jeff, you can't ask me that. I was like, I don't know, I'm just trying to get to this volleyball season. And he's like, no, really. He's like, you're team captain, you have it together, what are you doing? And I was like, I honestly don't know. I'm getting a degree in sports management, I think I want to get into professional sports. I also really enjoy teaching and helping and doing all that sort of stuff. I could see myself getting into maybe being a college professor or teaching or something like that. And then he asked me this question, which changed everything. He said, what do you know better than volleyball? And I was like, nothing. He's like, you should be a coach. He's like, you know the game, you're a hard worker, you obviously have a passion for it, that's what you should do. And that worm stuck, and that really guided everything. So from that point on, I graduated, I went back down to Southern California, and that's when I actually first connected to the University of Laverne. I became a volunteer assistant coach, became a graduate assistant, got my master's in business administration and finance, stayed with the program as a part-time assistant. I helped start a volleyball club, just doing things to stay in the game, just getting connections. And finally, I got the opportunity in 2019 to become the head coach at Laverne. I have the picture of my daughter, Amelia, my wife, Serena, and I. That was one of my first matches as head coach there on the left. And I have that on there because that really speaks a lot to what I'm trying to do as a head coach, right? And I think a big part of it is the phrase family in athletics is sometimes overused. But I do think that creating an environment and a culture in a place where the players can feel welcome and feel safe and feel secure, and also see, two parents who have kids, both have full-time jobs, find a way to make it work, have my kids running around. Like, I think that's a really good, powerful thing, especially for young female athletes to see. It's like, hey, we've got to find ways to make it work, and you can have a family and do all this stuff. That's just my favorite picture of me holding our regional championship trophy from last season. The upper right there, that's when we won the NCAA semifinal match to go to the national championship. And I used some expletives in there, but I said, you're going to a championship. You guys made it. And then my favorite thing is this picture on the bottom was from 2 weeks ago. My daughter's in the middle there with the pink hairband, and that's Izzy, Ayana, KP, and Vanessa, who are all 5 of my former players who came out to her first grass volleyball game to come to the Senior Bowl. Maya was the National Player of the Year, 4-time first-team All-American, all-time program leader in damn near every stat you could have. And Amelia was like, and that might as well be the most important person in the world. So when you saw Maya come up, that was a really, really cool thing. And I have that on there. I'm talking a lot about Laverne because it's really the model that I'm pulling back to Pacific. Laverne was Division III, no scholarships, truly student athletes. It's like, oh, we're not paying them any money. They're there to get their education. And they just so happen to be really, really good volleyball players as well. So I think that we can still do a lot of that at Pacific and in college athletics. And I not only think we can, but I think it's really important because so much of athletics in college is going towards the money model, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But ultimately, these are still young kids who don't know what they're doing, don't know how to do it, and don't have a lot of direction. And so I think it's our job as coaches and administrators and people in college athletics is still be a place where they can make mistakes and learn and figure it out and be supported and also be really good athletes and really operate at a really high level. So that's a lot of what I'm trying to bring to Pacific and why I want to come back here, because we are Division I and we've had tons of success. The program is one of the most successful programs in college volleyball history. It was in the 80s, but like there aren't many programs that can say they beat Nebraska in a national championship or Penn State, or any of those schools, and they had span of sold out, for 4 years in a row. That's a really special thing that not a lot of programs can speak to. Now, it's a huge hill to get to that point now. It's a completely different environment. But to be at a place where you can say this program has won and won at the highest levels against the best teams, there aren't a lot of people that can do that. So I think we really got to lean on that and come back to it. So the way I'm going to do that is, number one, I got 2 really good assistant coaches. One thing that I really wanted to focus on is, it's really easy in Division I athletics to kind of write on a name, or big time experience or stuff like that. For me, we have a lot of work to do, and I need people that I can trust, and I need people who are going to work really hard, and I need people who are going to be committed to the longer term time frame. Right? For us to get back in NCAAs and win championships, it's going to take 4, 5, 6 years. And so both of these guys, Austin, he was the technical coordinator at Stanford when they won Pac-12 championship. He's been in multiple Division I universities, and him and I actually played high school volleyball together for a year. So we've known each other since we were 17 years old. We went our different directions, came back to coaching club, and we were both like, hey, if one of us ever gets a real job and like coaching somewhere, like we should try and work together. And it just so happened he was at North Dakota, he was on his way out. I had just gotten hired at Pacific. And I was like, hey man, if you're serious about it, here's an opportunity. And so, boom, on the spot like that. And then Mario, he was with me at Laverne for the last 6 years. And he's just been an integral part of the training and learning. So for me, I brought these 2 on because they can teach. They are coaches, right? If we're gonna be good, we can't just rely on talent, right? I can't bring in the best players. Okay, Nebraska's gonna go pay for those people to go there. But I've got to find some really good people who are really good athletes who want to train and work hard and surround them by individuals that are gonna make them better, right? And so that's what these 2 guys can do. So they're really good trainers, I can trust them, they can teach the game, and they're really good people. Right? These are individuals where it's like, hey, I know you can have one-on-one meetings with our players, and you're gonna give them something a little more than just volleyball when they leave that conversation, right? Which is really big in the vision and direction that I wanna have for them. So the plan, right? My job as the coach, I gotta make sure that I'm guiding the direction of the program. I've got to paint the picture. I've got to steer the culture, right? And then I have to make sure that everybody that's involved in Pacific volleyball knows what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it. That's my number 1 job as a coach, right? Direction. So the mission for what we're trying to do, right? Why are we here? Guide members of the Tiger Volleyball program to be quality individuals who will positively impact those around them, right? The way I bring this day to day is like, hey Jim, Is you butchering this speech at the beginning making us better? Now we can say yes.
Moving forward, he gets a raise.
We need you in this room.
But honestly, right, it's like, hey, anytime we're doing stuff, are you making us better, right? Is you being late to class making the program better? No, it's not, right? Is you being 10 minutes late to practice making us better? 100%, right? So it's like, those are a really simple way that we can make sure that, hey, are the behaviors that we're doing match what we're trying to accomplish? And so it's also important that, you know, there's nothing about winning volleyball games in the mission, right? It's about development, you know, which I'm going to speak to a lot more. It's like, hey, can I get people in here and make them better people, right? We'll use volleyball. Volleyball is the tool. It's the vehicle that we're using to get them to grow, right? But it's really about like, hey, can I get people in here and make sure that when they come in as a freshman, that they're a different person, a better person when they leave as a senior, you know, they're ready to go on. You know, program vision, what are we striving for? Win a WCC championship, go to NCAAs, right? Good example of competitiveness, camaraderie, and behavior, right? The program's gonna be a beacon for the school and the athletic department, right? So the vision is that we're gonna be just the front porch, the porch light for the university, right? People think about Pacific Athletics, it's not gonna be the volleyball program from the 80s. It's just gonna be the volleyball program, the volleyball team. You know, and that's tough. That's a really hard, you know, lofty goal I'm setting. But that's one thing I learned from Laverne, is when I took over Laverne, we were 10-16 the year before, we hadn't gone to a conference championship, we hadn't done anything in a really long time. And we had a tough year coming out of COVID, and I said, hey, look, I was like, we're never doing this again. Like, if you're gonna be in this program, we're not having another losing season. I don't know how we're gonna do it, we're gonna figure it out. Like, so if you wanna be part of that, stay here. If you don't, and it's gonna be too hard, that's fine, don't be on the team. Because I'm gonna ask things of you that you don't wanna do. And we can't have that conflict, right? I can't be the person that's driving everything, right? And so that year we had championships are made in the off season, we put on all of our practice shirts. I said, for me as a coach, I gotta recruit, and I've gotta find a way to make you better. And for you as a player, you gotta hit the weight room, you gotta practice, you gotta train, you gotta make my job really hard, right? And that was really the tone that we set for. It was like, hey, we're gonna set this really crazy goal. Maybe we'll get there, maybe we won't, but the process of striving for it, we're gonna get a lot better, right? And that's really kind of everything that we're trying to do. You know, go back to what Jim said earlier, it's like, there really was a time when Spanos was completely sold out. You know, it was like, that was the thing to do in Stockton, was to go to the volleyball game. You know, there's so much more going on now, but that can still be a goal, right? That'd be a pretty cool thing if we could have just one game with 5,000 people. You know, like just, well, I'll take one right now. Because you get one, you're gonna get to two. You get to two, you get to four, and all of a sudden things are happening. You know, so that's really what we're trying to do. You know, it's like, I'd love to stand up here and say we're gonna win a championship in the next 6 years, for NCAAs. It's not gonna happen, okay? But we can win here in the community, right? We can start building that. And it's like, you just gotta start with those little wins and start stacking all those little wins to get to something bigger. So when we talk about kind of the vision, the purpose, you know, it's actually funny because hearing kind of the values that you had earlier really kind of speaks to what we're trying to do here. So when I talk to my team about the mission and the vision and how we do things, it's what we define culture as. It's just how you do stuff, right? Every single volleyball team in the country lifts weights, right? But what type of intensity do you bring? What type of energy do you have? How do you communicate with each other? How do you encourage? All that stuff. So 3 simple things. This applies to everybody. Doesn't matter if you're the All-American on the roster, or you're the walk-on player, it's all the same. You're gonna speak with purpose. We're gonna watch how we communicate with each other, right? How you say things matters, what you say matters, what you choose to communicate about matters. All you do is complain, you're not making us better, right? If every time you have a conversation, it's something around a solution-focused communication, you're gonna make our team better. Right? We're gonna watch how we say. We're gonna bring the energy, right? You're gonna watch your body language, you're gonna encourage, you're gonna have composure when things are hard, you're gonna celebrate when things are great. We're just gonna be very, very mindful of how we do it. You are responsible for you. Period, end story. Right? We can't control how other people act, we can control how we respond, and we're gonna make sure that we reiterate that every single day that we're in any sort of space together. And the last one is the one team, one standard, like I just said. You know, I have trust, accountability, selflessness, and unity. That's just the idea that, hey, if you're on the team, it applies to you. And if you don't like it, you don't have to be on the team, right? But that's part of being on a team and getting all this great stuff, is you give up a little bit of the selfishness of you want to do things your way. But you get so much out of that, right? Community service, all that sort of stuff, right? You could be doing anything at any time, anywhere else. But you're choosing to do this because it makes you feel better, right? You can get some joy in helping others and doing that sort of stuff. It's the same idea with the team, right? Everything that we do is for us, and it's gonna make all of us better on that. So these are my big three things. And I came up with this after I got here. One thing I didn't do is come in with like a specific plan of how I thought things was gonna go when I, got to the school. The program had a rough season last year. I didn't know who the team was stepping in. I have a great group of girls, but I didn't know that when I took over. So I took some time. These are the three big, call them pillars of the volleyball program for Pacific for now and into the future. Number one is we're gonna compete, and I have go in it, right? This is athletics, it's competitive, we wanna win, right? You've gotta make sure that everything that we do is one of three things. You're competing with yourself, right? We say 1% better every day, right? Every time, and I challenge my team with this every single opportunity we have, if you step into a gym, if you step into a weight room, if you have a coach's meeting, if you're in a room with your teammates, you've got to leave that room saying you got better in some way, right? You can never give up an opportunity where we're together and you don't improve and get better from it, right? You don't have to be perfect on it, right? But that's what we're striving for, right? Compete with yourself. Every time you have an opportunity to improve, are you taking advantage of that, right? Obviously across the net, right? It's like we want to beat our opponents, right? Losing sucks and it's hard, and you go through tough seasons. It's not fun. We want to find ways to be successful. We want to win. We want to beat our opponents. Right, and then I have this thing on here, co-opetition. This is from our national team coach, Harsh Karai. But it's the idea that we're gonna compete with each other, but I'm not gonna try and beat you. I'm just gonna try to win the competition on it. And by us competing with each other and staying positive in it, we're gonna make each other better, right? So we're gonna cooperate in our goal, we're gonna compete with each other because you're just gonna be better when you're trying to beat somebody. You can just push yourself to a level you can't get to with that self-motivation idea with them. And that's where those three values I had before, we're gonna watch how we communicate, we're gonna watch our body language, we're gonna hold each other to the same standards, right? We're all on a level playing field here. And just the best person's gonna rise to the top at some point. But like, I need you to push me to help me be my best, right? So that's the compete part. The development, we just gotta get better, right? It's the idea that there's no finished products, right? The growth mindset. I'm not gonna get somebody here on day one and they're the best volleyball player they're ever gonna be. I've got to believe that they can improve and get better. I believe that me as a coach, I can get better, right? It's like, come in here and be ready to just improve and work and see how good you can get, right? And that's what staff do. More questions than answers, right? I tell every recruit when they walk with their parents, I say, hey, if you come in with all the answers, you're in the wrong room, right? Because I know I don't have all the answers. And I've been playing coaching volleyball longer than you've been born, longer than you've been alive. Right, so it's like, I want people who have more questions than answers. They want to find new ways to do things. They want to be creative. They want to just be the best that they can be in that pursuit of it. And we'll see how far we get. Right, that's the goal with that. And then finally, teach. And that's for my staff and I. Right, we've got to make sure that the players coming into our program get better. Each practice, each season, each year, and then over the course of your career. And I tell everybody, like, my goal is that on your senior night, that's the best volleyball you're ever going to play. Right, we're going to see you getting here. You're gonna have some injuries, you're gonna have some setbacks, it's probably gonna look, more like this. But like, I want you playing your best volleyball at the end of your career, right? And that's a huge goal, right? That's what we're trying to do with it. So we're gonna develop our players. I find the connection piece, which is why I was so excited to come here, right? Preparing for the future, like people before volleyball. I meet with each of my players individually every week. So I have 18 players on the roster, so that's a lot of meetings. Okay, but they have to be able to know that their head coach and them have a relationship in some way. Right, it's like, if I'm benching you, you gotta hear from me. If you're playing, you gotta hear from me why you're playing, what we need to do to keep you out there, and what the plan is for improvement. Right, I want them to have a meeting with me before I have to call them on the phone and say, hey, I gotta talk to you. Right, because then they're gonna think, we've all had that moment. Right, I don't want the first time they talk to the head coach to be only when they're in trouble. My assistants be with them as well, so we're gonna go on a rotating schedule with that. So it's like, if you're gonna get them to play hard, they gotta know you, they gotta trust you, they gotta believe in you. So that's where the people before volleyball comes in. I'm going to get to know them as people, right? And then we're going to be really good volleyball players after that. We're going to be part of the community, right? And so that's the community on campus. That's the greater Stockton community. I want my volleyball team to be out in front of me. So one fun thing I did this spring to kind of drive this point home, I gave them all a week. I said, okay, you have to go somewhere on campus you've never been before. Now, I had 7 freshmen, so it wasn't very hard for them. Okay. And I said, you have to go somewhere you've never been on campus. You have to introduce yourself to somebody you've never talked to. And you got to report back to me who they were and what they do on campus. And a couple of them went to the president's office. Some of them went to the multicultural center. Some of them kind of cheated. They already knew like the people working in the dining hall, but they like reintroduced themselves. And they had all these awesome fun stories. And I was like, hey, you guys have been here for 7 months, right? And you've seen these people every single day. and you're just now getting to know them. Now, imagine you do that over the course of 4 years here, right? That's gonna be something special, and you could see it kind of change immediately, kind of what they're trying to do with that. And then sharing who we are. I like to think that I'm gonna recruit some really great people. I know I have really good volleyball coaches. I want people to know who we are and hear what we do and see how we do it, and hopefully be motivated to get more involved, right? One really cool thing that I did at Laverne, which I'll do here again, and we did a bunch of summer camps and clinics, and we'd have a day where every kid who came to clinic could come to one of our volleyball games for free in the fall, right? So we had like 30, 11-year-olds in the stands, and we had, Maya, the national player of the year, just absolutely bouncing balls, and they just thought she was the greatest thing in the world. Right? So after the game, they're just like starting the court, getting on there. It's like, hey, we convinced a couple kids to like make volleyball like a lifelong thing. That's pretty cool, right? And I think especially with Division I and kind of the more access, the bigger network that Pacific has, I think that's something in the next 4 years that I can really blow up, make a really cool thing. Compete, develop, connect. Those are going to be the things that we really hang our hat on, as a program and what we're trying to do with that. So the roster for this coming season, we'll have 18 players, 2 freshmen, 8 sophomores, 7 juniors, and 1 graduate. So we have the youngest roster in the NCAA last year. Good and bad, presents a lot of, strategically balancing out a roster, making sure that we don't have just these giant classes. I'm bringing in 6 players, 5 transfers, 2 freshmen to kind of even that out. You can see we have 7 pin hitters, 4 middles, 3 setters, and 4 liberos. There's a lot of people at every position. That comes into, hey, if one of my core values is compete, I'm going to make you earn your spot. Right? It's also the idea that in these first few years, as I get better players in, we're going to make the players we have improve because they're going to have to earn every single point they get on the floor. Right? They're not just going to be the only one so they play. They're going to have to beat out somebody. And the people who get beat out are going to have to push them and challenge them and be ready to play also. Right? It's very much, I don't believe in seniority or any of that sort of stuff. With playing time, the best player plays freshman to senior. Doesn't matter to me. What matters is how you play and how you perform. We'll figure this out as it goes. 0 seniors is rough, and then I have a giant class of juniors and a giant class of sophomores. So we're gonna be doing a lot of recruiting the next few years, which is good. Talking about the roster, the one thing that I absolutely love about this team already is they are genuinely good people. We have some really quality individuals. Alessia, who's our junior setter, she's from Italy. When we were creating our recruiting packets to send out to families before they come on visits, we had them all kind of give a little blurb about what they love about the team, why they like it. And Alessia is, I'm genuinely in love with this program because it's all about growing as a person first, not just as an athlete. The traditions with this program are what makes it so special to be a part of. I love the strong support community between student athletes. I wish I could take credit for that. I mean, I just got here, just said that. Right, but that's who they are already. So when I heard those things as I was getting hired, and I was bringing in all my stuff, that was gonna be great. It's gonna fit right in because they're already talking about doing the things that we're looking to accomplish. So looking ahead, I have all these great plans, right? But there's some major things that come, so we got to figure out. Name, image, likeness, and revenue sharing, right? So that's the House 7 bill that NCAA lost 2 years ago, which basically says that you can pay athletes for their name, their image, or their likeness, right? They do something that they could get paid for it, which is completely different than how it was in the past. And revenue sharing, just the idea that profits or income from the university can be given to athletes. So how that's changed everything is now it used to be, hey, I'm going to offer you a full ride. And you're like, yes. Now it's, and how much money are you going to pay? How much per year? For how many years? Do I get a car? Are you going to pay for my parents' car? All this sort of stuff. It's trickling down to our level. For a WCC all-conference volleyball player, you might be paying anywhere from $10,000 to $35,000 a year on top of their scholarship. It is what it is, right? And so for us to be competitive, we have to find ways to be able to compete in that market. I think in a lot of ways, coaches now are more general managers than just athletic coaches, right? There are plenty of coaches out there who can't train very well, but they got a big bank account. They can just get really good players, right? And so that's part of what we have to compete against. I think I'm really happy, and part of what made me want to take this job is Adam Shore, AD. He's a really smart guy and he's on it, right? So we are opted in, meaning that we can participate in NIL and revenue sharing. That's something that we are doing. We're finding ways to be strategic about, but there's no way around it. That's going to present big hurdles for a lot of mid-major volleyball programs as they look to become, at the national standing for this stuff. The transfer portal's been around for a couple of years now. Right now, we just ended one in the spring, and this is just the idea that players can come and go in the fall or in the spring, no strings attached. They enter the portal, they get picked up by someone else, they can go. So as a coach who's trying to create a culture and create a new program, you can't get a kid and just assume they're gonna be here for 4 years, right? You have to basically recruit them all the time. I can't just say you're here, tough, deal with it, if you don't like the way I do it, then leave. It'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna leave, I'm out of here, see you, coach. And then I have to find a new player to replace them every single year. So, it's hard, it's tough. I think as a coach, honestly, it makes you better because you gotta really take care of your players, and you gotta make sure you get it right. Right? If you get a bad apple in there, they can cause a lot of harm in 6 months. And then they leave, and then you're just left with all the repercussions of that. Right? So I think it's an opportunity for us as coaches to kind of reevaluate how we do things and what we're doing, but it is a struggle when you're trying to create a roster and have some continuity from year to year. When players can leave at literally for any reason, they don't even have to say why. They just sign off on it, and then as the head coach, you just have to say, okay, kind of write that out. This is brand new, age-based eligibility model. So NCAA is playing with the idea that you now get 5 years of eligibility. It starts when you turn 19 or when you graduate from high school, whichever comes first. And there's no more red shirts, there's no more medical red shirts, there's no more waivers. You get 5 years on the clock from the day after you graduate high school. And so, as a head coach, do I want to have you for 5 years? Right? Like, does that even work with a 4-year graduation model, that most universities do? There's going to be a lot of things that we have to figure out kind of contractually with athletes on, hey, what does this look like? And what do we do when players get hurt and they lose a couple of years? So again, a lot of roster management stuff. And then we all know this rising costs. Running these things is really, really expensive and it's only getting worse. And then you increase inflation with bigger roster numbers and now having to pay these players on top of that. All of a sudden, budgets become exceedingly high. We got to figure all that stuff out. For me, none of these things are like, oh my gosh, end of the world. You just got to find creative ways to do it. And I think that's one area where I think Pacific is going to do a really good job, especially with Adam and Leslie and our administrators. One of their 4 key values is innovation, right? It's like you walk into their office and you present them with a problem and a solution. They're going to say, I don't know if we can do that, but let's see. Right? It's not an immediate no. It's I don't know if we can do that, but that's a good idea. Maybe we can do something else. And I think the best coaches in the mid-level conferences are just going to have to be creative. Just be open to finding a different way to do it. So, what I'm asking everybody, right? Come to our matches, first and foremost. Right? Support with your body and your presence and being vocal and being loud. Help us create connections, right? My big thing is I want to have my team in the community. I want them to meet, hopefully the person's going to connect them with their first interview, or maybe be their first interview, right? Or it can just be a mentor for them. I'm looking for people to donate, right? What I'm doing is, I don't necessarily want anybody in this room to donate, but I want somebody in this room to tell me who I should talk to, who might be willing to donate, right? Kind of that second degree of separation, because that's when we really start creating these big networks. I'd love to have somebody get $50,000, but I can also do $51,000, right? Or I can do 100 of the other one. It's like, I don't really care, but I've got to raise about $70,000 a year if I'm going to be able to compete with revenue sharing ML. Right? So that's like on top of what our budget is already. And that's not like necessary, but if I want to win and I want to compete, that's about what it's going to take. Right? So again, that's just a lot of work for me, but I have 2 really good volleyball coaches. I can get out in the community and have these things. Well, I have my 2 assistants in the transfer portal right now, just knocking out emails trying to find players to come to our program. But that's a huge hurdle, but it can be done because people really love volleyball in this community. Right? And I think when I can share with them what we're doing and how we're doing it, hopefully throw a couple wins on the floor, I think that'll make a big difference. And then finally, we're doing our summer camps and clinics. This summer, we have camps for kids 6 to graduating high school. It's for 2 weeks in the middle of July. Maybe Diana, I can send you the link. If anybody has some young, soon-to-be volleyball players, we'd love to have them in the gym. It's super fun. We do a really good job with it. They'll get a really good time, and then obviously they're going to learn a lot of volleyball. So, with that being said, right? Jim, you're probably here.
On our
for this.
home court.
That is in Spanos. They beat Nebraska. Nebraska is like far and away the best volleyball program in the country right now.
Yeah.
And I think they beat them like 15-9, 15-4, 15-4. They whooped them.
In front of a sold-out crowd.
Yeah.
At home.
So that's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool thing right there.
Or my patient's there.
Yeah.
Have you had time or are aware of John Dunning?
I've met with him a couple times. So he's actually on the staff with our athletic department.
He's there every day.
Yeah.
So, he comes from a different era,
Yeah.
but I think one thing doesn't change at all. You have to have a culture. You can't develop a team in 1 year. So what you're trying to do, what you said, if you can get a culture where kids want to come to UOP, not for the money, but for the culture. And I'm sure you're aware of John Wooden
Yeah.
and his pyramid.
Sounds like
The-
John.
Well, but John Wooden never, ever talked about winning a
Winning.
relationship. His definition of success was maximize your potential, which is in your comment.
Yeah.
But people wanted to go to UCLA for that culture. And so how you're presenting this information is spectacular. I played college basketball. My coach was just the opposite of you. I had no clue what was going on in the program. I had to have a water polo coach who knew me, and I'm in the locker room, and in 5 minutes he told me about coaching.
Yeah. I mean, and that's, it's different now. I mean, that was still right back then, you know.
It's different, sort of, but the fundamental is what you're talking about
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And the energy you bring, and if you're talking to your kids every week, again, my head coach never talked to me, period. And my teammates would help me, and we had the best talent in the country my sophomore year, and you know, it was terrible. So you're way ahead of the curve, and the nil and the transfer portal, that's just kind of there. But I think if you can define that culture, people will want to come to UOP to play volleyball.
Yeah, I want to show you this,
That was, I guess there was a question in there somewhere.
So one thing that we created is, so this is a website that I had made just for recruiting and kind of sharing cultures of what we do. So we hired this company and they made this website for us. So now we send specificvolleyball.com. So now every recruit, when we start talking, they're like, hey, check out this website. You know, it's just for you. And now you can go on here and you can see culture, right? 2-time champions, 8-5, 8-6, 13-1 student athlete ratio, right? My whole spiel on here, Compete, Develop, Connect, has links to our social media, and then, you know, this thing on here, and then you can go to all these different areas where it tells you about what our team is, right? It talks about the connections and Big Sister program, you know, we just go through all this stuff, right? Gives a little bio on me. So these are things that, you know, where we're trying, you know, it's like, look, we're not gonna compete money, you know, blow for blow, right? But if I can be a better communicator, and I can be kind of the first to the punch, and then when I finally get them to answer my text or, you know, my phone call, I immediately have this so they can hop on there and show their parents. Now the parents can go on and see, hey, wow, like, they really got it together. You know, that's worth an extra phone call, a little extra time. You know, that's how we can do that.
Right.
You know, we can really, you know, the more we can communicate, the more, like I said, have direction, you know, and share what we're trying to do and get people to want to be here.
And the one thing he said in here, I think is really important, is how to say things positively.
Yeah.
Because sport can be so negative, and if a kid is negative, go restate that in a positive way, and most people have a tough time. I mean, our society is very negative, the press is very negative. How can you say things in a positive way? How can you make the program better versus going and complaining about it? Here's my suggestion, here's a solution.
Yeah.
That's great. You don't hear that too often.
And it's hard. I mean, a couple years ago with my Laverne team, I don't know what it was. It was like, it's not good enough, guys. It's not good enough, it's not good enough, it's not good enough. And they were like, Coach, it really bothers us, like, when you say that. And I was like, yeah, I can see that, for sure.
Any other questions for Jeff? Right on. So, yeah, I mean, inspiring stuff, and enthusiastic about where the volleyball program is going.
It'll be fun. It'll be challenging.
And fun? Hey, we're all about fun, right? So as we head out today, I just want to say, Jim had a rough day today. But I do want to say, I appreciate the fact that you ran home and picked me up and got that checkbook so that we could give Pat and Bob and Danny their check today. So, thank you, Jim. Appreciate you.
You got one thing right.
I'll learn how to say it. I was trying to end it on a positive. Come on. All right, so don't forget, next Tuesday we are where?
Upstairs. Baseball. Oh, baseball.
2 weeks we're upstairs.
Oh, okay.
Something. Next week, we're at the ballpark, right, for the baseball game. If you haven't, email Kendra, let her know you want tickets. We still have a few we need to sell. So, get those tickets and be there and have fun. And we will see you there.